Newman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630. WMAL.
7:37 on the Morning Majority. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham here. A little breaking news for you this morning. Reuters and ABC News reporting a National Transitional Council military spokesman in Libya tells them that Gaddafi has been captured and possibly wounded. Another source at CNN says a National Transitional Council military spokesman tells them it's a rumor. So we will see how this pans out.
Yeah.
It was looking like it was for sure, but then CNN has this other report. So we'll keep you updated on whether Gaddafi is in the hands of rebels. But the rebels have had a good day taking a city that they had not before. So
some of the initial reporting has been sort of sketchy, and we have had to walk some stuff back. So we'll take that as a sign, but let's wait till we get more confirmation.
All righty. We have Stuart Varney with us from the Fox Business Network. How's it going?
Mary Catherine, I've got my fingers crossed about Gaddafi.
Yes.
Well, so have we.
Yeah.
So I want to open up with, at the debate, the GOP candidates were asked about the mortgage issue, the forthcoming foreclosures. They all seemed to just sort of default to talking about the economy in general, didn't really have great answers on this. What should be the answer for GOP candidates when asked about the mortgage issue?
I think the GOP, generally speaking, doesn't like government attempts to get itself involved and rescue the housing market, because those attempts have not been successful. The GOP's problem, however, is that if you withdraw that government support and you follow a policy of just let it crash as a way of wiping the market clean, it's called a clear out, essentially.
Right.
If you do that, the pain that you inflict short term is extreme. Which politician wants to go out there and say, hey, it's going to be very, very painful, but it is necessary, and I'm for it? So that's the dilemma. Everybody, well, not everybody, the opinion generally amongst conservatives is, let the market work this thing out, but there's a reluctance to accept that, boy, that's going to inflict a lot of pain short term.
Well, let me ask you this. What comes first, the economy recovers or the housing market recovers?
Oh, I think it's got to be the economy that recovers. I think you've got to have growth in jobs. You've got to have economic growth. Do that, and you've got the basis for fewer foreclosures, fewer people going into delinquency on their mortgages, and maybe a bottom for housing prices. To answer your question honestly, Brian, I think it's got to be economic growth. We've got to go for growth.
Stuart, I'm looking at this story about what's going on in the United States Senate right now, and Democratic Majority Leader Harry Reid says yesterday that it's very clear that private sector jobs have been doing fine, just fine, he says. It's the public sector job where we've lost huge numbers, and he's proposing legislation to fix that. By the way, legislation that's going nowhere fast. But is he right or wrong when he says that the private sector jobs are doing just fine?
He's flat out wrong, Brian. Come on. Look, if you look at the Labor Department statistics, it's very, very clear. There were 111,000 million people employed at the end of 2008. That's down to 109 million people employed now. We have lost, flat out, factually accurate, 2.5 million jobs in the last 3 years. That's private sector jobs, okay? That's excluding the public sector completely. Now, the public sector has lost some jobs. Depending on the time frame, they've lost either 250,000 local government jobs in a couple of years, but it's nowhere near the job losses in the private sector. So Senator Reid is flat out factually wrong, and I think he's politically posturing, because as you said, Brian, he knows that this $35 billion deal to try to prop up the teachers and the cops around the states, that's not going to go anywhere. It's going to go down to defeat. So Senator Reid can now say it's those wicked Republicans that got your teacher fired.
We've talked a lot about the 999 plan, but now we're hearing that Rick Perry is going to propose a flat tax proposal. Can we explain? Let's first get into what a flat tax is. That would mean it would be one rate for everybody in the country, right?
Yeah, that's the simplistic version of the flat tax. I mean, there are various versions of tax reform, fair tax, flat tax, all that. But essentially, Herman Cain started this with 999. That is a form of flat tax, 9% for individual income, corporate income, sales tax. Got it. Rick, I don't know the details of Governor Perry's plan, but it's along somewhat similar lines. A flat rate of taxation across the board. That's what he's proposing. I think he's jumping on Herman Cain's bandwagon here, and frankly, I like that, because I think the most important issue next year in the election is going to be a return to prosperity.
Right.
In my opinion, a return to prosperity with tax reform, real radical tax reform.
Okay, but can you have a flat tax that a flat tax would certainly help those in the upper bracket, right? Would it help those in the upper bracket more than it would help those in middle class?
Yes, it would.
And so politically, this is what I keep getting back to. Can even a Republican Congress and a Republican president get that passed where you have a new tax structure where you're going to be helping the rich more than you would be helping the middle class?
That's a very difficult political sell. It would be a fine piece of leadership if you could sell it. I think it's a very difficult sell, quite obviously, because, look, we are used to a progressive tax system where the more you make, the higher proportion you pay in tax. We got that. That's almost bedrock to our society. This turns that on its head. Everybody pays the same rate. It is therefore regressive, not progressive. So can you have that kind of revolution and sell it successfully? Tough call. Yeah. I think it's necessary, but again, it's a very tough call.
Is there a simplification plan in which that doesn't happen? I mean, simplifying means that you end up with a lower rate in top brackets, but you also, for the middle class, end up not having to juggle all your paperwork, go to H&R, do the deductions, the whole thing.
Depends upon the exclusion.
Right.
If the first, say, $40,000 in income is completely excluded from all tax, then you've made it less regressive than it would be if you imposed the tax rate on everybody's income from $1.
Right.
That's a way round that problem. And I believe that every iteration of the fair flat tax involves some degree of income exclusion.
All right. So it's not completely flat then.
Right. I mean, well, it's a flat rate.
Slightly warped.
Yeah, slightly warped. Right.
Slightly warped flat rate. Okay, I'll go with that. I like it. Okay, I like it.
No, that's fine.
But that is a standard feature of flat tax plans.
Yes, it is. It is.
All right, Stuart Varney, always good to have you. Thanks for joining us here on the Morning